But right now, let's turn to our next topic that is, of course, about connectivity in our world that is more and more relying on connection. Ensuring that everyone has access to it is not just a matter of convenience. That is actually a necessity for social equity, for economic growth and innovation, and etc. But what do you get? What do you get when you combine policy experts with a telecom expert and a representative from a municipality? Well, ladies and gentlemen, you get a great discussion that is led by a great moderator. So, ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome on the stage the moderator for our next topic. He's a senior manager for infrastructure policy and member state outreach at Digital Europe. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Normund Egle.
Thank you so much for your kind introductory words, and also it's great that we have plenty of people here today in person, but also plenty of people online. So my sincere hope, of course, is that everyone who wants to follow us online or rewatch this later on has this opportunity. However, let's be honest here, actually not everyone has such an opportunity to follow something online, where basically the term digital divide comes from. And that is what we will discuss today. Again, be it on, for whatever reasons, geographical, population-wise or others, we'll have a great chat with our distinguished speakers here today. So we have Dan Mihai Kirila from the European Commission. We, of course, have Teppo Rantanen from the city of Tampere. We have Oliver Leck from Telia. And last but certainly not least, we also have Elin Solmina from the ITU, the International Telecommunications Union. So very different perspectives covering everything from municipal to even global level. So it'll be an exciting conversation to have. But I would then like to actually start with you, Dan, and turn to you, first of all, asking just about Commission's sort of maybe general view about the digital divide and the goals that have been set out in the digital decade targets. So probably most of the people here are aware of the digital decade program, which has quite a lot of elements, but one of those is also that everyone should have gigabit connectivity by 2030. And well, let's see, when I read everyone, I also read, for example, maybe my grandmother in the village who otherwise, you know, maybe doesn't have it right now. So just a general question to kick it off. So how do you view this connection between digital decade targets and digital divide, and how well are we established, and are we on the right track to get there?
Thank you, Normund. So in Europe, indeed, we have this digital decade targets with 1 gigabyte, with gigabyte connectivity by 2030, and with an intermediate step in 2025, meaning 50% of all households could be covered by gigabyte connectivity. The most accurate recent data that we have is the DESI report, the Digital Economy and Society Index of 2022, which was published this year. This report says that the urban area is well covered by gigabyte connectivity, with some cities boosting near universal coverage. However, the rural areas could continue to lag behind, with many communities still lacking access to a reliable, high-speed internet. Only about 25% of the rural households has access today, well, not today, in 2022, to the gigabyte connectivity. Probably these figures are slightly better in 2024. We'll see this in probably 2 years' time. And of course, there are significant differences between the member states, but we are not here to point to these differences now.
Right. So I hear that while, of course, maybe numbers are not that impressive yet, but well, we still have 6 years to get to the 2030. So definitely it will be interesting maybe to take then stock. In 2030, I think it will be like 13th iteration of the 5G territory already, so we might as well return to that topic then as well. But then going from maybe a more global overview to more regional look, I would like to turn to you, Teppo, and ask you maybe from a bit of a different angle, because if we look at the city of Tampere that you represent, one might say that actually you are not lagging behind. You were actually among the first ones to have the 5G coverage in your area. But then it sometimes, raises this question you hear in discussions, what we call the chicken and egg situation, to which we'll also return to with other speakers as well, is once you actually do have the coverage, so the connectivity is there, does that then bring additional businesses? Is there actually demand for it? Or is it just more like a token? Hey, we can say we have it, but maybe we could have done also without it, at least for a while. What's your experience in Tampere?
Sure. Well, we had the luxury of being the hometown of Nokia is actually helping us to set a lot of technology in place. And we had the first 5G network up and running already at the turn of 2017, 2018, which was a test network run by Nokia for us to give up access to all companies to have a look at how they could benefit from the use of 5G. And we can say that that sort of a connectivity promise is a good one to attract companies, attract talent to the region, which also increases the economic wealth of the region. If you look at the other way around, what it has meant for us is that the 5G has been, as in most parts of Finland, where you have the dense population, they're all covered by 5G today, the rest of the country covered by 4G. We have the fiber connectivity by 70% of the households, so we have pretty good shape. But if you look at the 5G, for example, the fact is that we don't still have the use cases sufficiently supporting why we need 5G. So it is a repetition for us. It's a great thing for showcasing those innovative new solutions. But I think that one of the challenges that talking to the telco operators is that they still have hard time to really make money out of the 5G because there's no real use cases sufficiently. But I think that once we go deeper into the service needs that our citizens have, we also see the need for a better connectivity. So I think that the EU goal is good in that sense, that if you want to really serve the population with such digital services that require much better connectivity, that's what we need.
Right. Actually, then continuing also a bit on this chicken and egg topic, as I like to often call it, Oliver, so you represent a telco operator, so the other side of the front line, so to speak. What would be your evaluation of the situation? Is that indeed the case that, for example, when we talk about digital divide, operators not coming in and not providing, one might call it very high capacity networks. It can be fixed, it can be wireless or whatnot. Do you think indeed that is the case? And if so, then what could maybe be even the remedies in such a situation? Would, let's say, some maybe public investments help to remedy the situation to a certain degree? Or how do you, as an operator, see this chicken and egg situation?
Mm-hmm. So, by dividing those areas or the coverage areas into different categories, I think in the urban area, in Telia countries, I think the situation is good. There is a demand, and operators are willing to roll out fiber networks, cable networks, good coverage, 4G, 5G networks, and so on, so on. I think in our Telia countries, cities are covered really, really well. City of Tampere and among of them. I don't have the experience in the mega cities, which was mentioned here in the previous panel, where there's a capacity issue. In our case, that's not that densely populated, that we have the issue in the mobility as well. In the suburban environment, it comes a bit trickier, I would say. Yes, there is a demand. There is demand to roll out cable networks, also mobile networks. But especially in the private houses area, then you need a tower to build the good coverage, right? In the urban environment, it's good enough on the rooftops, right? There you need the tower. And then, I mean, we here and then everybody here in the conference are thinking of the connectivity as a human right, or we take it as a granted, right? That's something that we need, that we understand that businesses need and so on. But that's not the case for everyone, right? There are people who think that, and it's their belief, and they don't want to be connected all the time. They want to be not connected. They don't want this infrastructure there. And then when we go to those areas, there's a lot of people saying that, yeah, good coverage is needed. There are businesses who need this. This is their lifeline there. And then there's few people, or some people, who say, no, I don't want to do that. And if we go and explain them, yeah, but this is needed due to the fact that those businesses here need that, and the people need, and you need to attract younger generations and so on, then they say to you that, I mean, you're a mobile operator, you have your commercial, you're commercially biased, so you have an interest here, right? So where we need help is to start to from the public sector as well, to give that, it's not just about you, that to attract the region and give it, being this alive here for the businesses, it's needed. It's not just you, but it's also the area itself, right? And then even trickier in the rural areas, of course. Then becomes the question of the need itself, right? When it's very sparsely populated, understandably very difficult to roll out fiber to each household. For the private sector, but I would say also for the public sector, if it's that expensive, and especially in some summer areas, where the people maybe are only a couple of months per year, difficult to do that investment. And also in the mobile area or in the wireless area, then that's the second option, right, is that investment is quite high. You need to build a tower, maybe the electricity is far away, you need some sort of a backhaul for the site and so on. So the investment is really high. So yeah, there is public sector help really appreciated. I mean, operator, by the end of the day, still has the operating costs to keep up the network, the electricity, the life cycle management and so on of the nodes. So yeah, to get over from the initial investment need, support is.
And, just here, maybe one more than clarifying question for you. So there have been quite a lot of different programs also in the Baltic states where, for example, you use the public funding to roll out the middle mile, and then, you know, the hope, let's say, or the wish, or the thinking is that then the biggest part of the possible rollout costs has been covered, then the operators will come in and, you know, the last mile will be provided, and like I said, my grandma in the village will be able to stream 4K Netflix once I show her how to do it. But sometimes we also have observed that even that is not enough, and the last mile still can even be problematic with this public investment. So would you then also say that the public funding for even kind of subsidizing the last mile till my grandma's house is also something that should be maybe expanded even more if we, of course, are to reach the political target, which is gigabit for everyone?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, especially in those areas which I mentioned, really sparsely populated rural areas. I mean, in Southern Europe, it tends to be more that the village is really close by, and people are, and then there's the fields. In Northern Europe, in Baltic countries, in Finland, in Sweden, some of those houses are really far away from each other. And then understandably, the middle mile is one thing, but building a fiber connection or even a towered connection to those houses is a very complex thing to do, because the distances are that long.
If I can comment on that, because Tampere is a city where there's a densely populated center, but there's a huge rural area, also part of the city, with very, very scarce population. And we've been benefiting from the EU funding, where we have been getting the 50% support to build those fibers. And there have been a lot of sort of activity amongst the people themselves. So they formed, like, you know, a coalition of people coming, okay, now we have this group together. If you can get the 50% funding, then we will be paying the rest ourselves. And that's how we've been getting the fiber to almost everybody in our city.
I wish that everyone would be as active as you guys are in Finland, but who knows, maybe we'll get there. But still, before we will also get back on this topic a little bit as well, I would also like to give floor to Elin from ITU. And I mean, you guys at ITU, of course, you have the more global overview than maybe most of us. So maybe you could just start by giving us a bit of introduction. What do you do at ITU regarding the digital divide? And maybe mention a few like maybe general examples. I know that there is the digital compact that you have been negotiating, or is it already done, the negotiations? So just to give us first a bit of a general overview from ITU point of view.
Normus, thank you very much. Thanks to everyone who have joined this panel on digital inclusion. I'm Elin, I'm the Digital Infrastructure Officer and of the Regional Office for Europe, and together with the esteemed colleagues here, we are, let's say, maybe if allow me the word, the infrastructure people. So in terms of, we discussed so far about affordability and infrastructure, which are, according to ITU, two of the four challenges that we have. As I was preparing for this session, I couldn't help but notice that this panel, unfortunately, only represents 50% of the population. So, especially because it's on digital inclusion, I think it would be important that next time we will have a more gender-balanced approach, because these also give better and more comprehensive solutions, because exactly on those 2 points, we of course have infrastructure challenges that we have to take into account. We have to take into account affordability, but also we have digital skills, literacy, and gender disparities. And this is exactly, those are the 4 pillars of our work at the International Telecommunication Union, which is the oldest UN agency. No one knows about ITU, but actually ITU is, let's say, everywhere. And our objective has always been to connect the unconnected and to bridge the digital divide. Replying to your answer, dear Normunds, for those 4 challenges, affordability, infrastructure, gender disparities, and literacy, digital literacy and skills, we have developed products, different toolkits that we utilize to provide technical assistance. We are 5G territory. Latvia and the Baltic region is at the forefront of digital development, but we should not forget that even though we have this idea that the Europe region, and compared to the global world, is much more advanced, there are still disparities there. And so we as ITU, with the 3 sectors, standardization, radio communication, and development, we have to close the digital divide, and therefore inside the Europe region we are providing support on affordability, on infrastructure challenges, on digital skills and literacy, and on gender equality. Without taking too much time, as again we are the infrastructure people here, we provide technical assistance on broadband mapping systems. Broadband mapping systems at the national level in the Balkan region, for instance, for Europe, allow to identify the connectivity gaps and basically understand where investments from the national, from government, at the national level or at the private sector level should be directed. And same goes with the other topics. But again, I stop here and may be happy to continue interacting with you colleagues. Thank you.
And don't worry, we will still get back to you also maybe on a few more examples, but here I would like to get back to you, Dan, now. So you also heard us discussing quite a lot about the public funding. So, good or bad, but that's the situation the way it is. And you at European Commission, DG Connect, you have this famous CEF, the Connected Europe Facility program as well, which among the transport and energy also deals with the telecom stuff. So maybe you could also give us a bit of an overview what you do there and how maybe that work is also impacting in, increasing the connectivity and bridging the gap wherever it is, because we still have plenty.
Indeed, I'm working in DigiConnect, the unit dealing with high-capacity investments. And we are the unit dealing with CEF Digital, but this is not the only funding instrument that the European Commission has. So we also have to mention the Agricultural Fund for Rural Development, which provides funding for rural development regions projects, including broadband infrastructure. The Recovery and Resilience Facility, the RRF, which everybody knows, and the 5G PPP, a public-private partnership that aims to promote 5G research and development, including in rural area. Of course, to this, there are a lot of national plans developed by all member states at their level. Now, I think that one of the speakers in the morning panel mentioned that the investment gap in digital is of around 200 billions to reach all the targets. So the digital strand of the CEF has for the period of 21-27 a budget of 1.5 billion, so which is only a little drop in the ocean of the total needs in this field. And of course, 5G is only one of the topic of the CEF Digital. We also have backbone connectivity for global gateways. We have ODPs and quantum computing. For 5G, we have the two strands in Work Program 1, which was 5G for smart communities and 5G for transport corridors. Now so the first work program for CEF Digital was for 21-24. Now we just published recently the second work program. And in this work program, the second work program, of course, we still keep the targets initially foreseen in the first work program, which were this gigabit connectivity targets. And it stays the core of our work program, but we had to also to take into account the new challenges, the geopolitical changes that we see. Also, it was mentioned this morning, the white paper published recently by the European Commission, and this had to be also integrated in the new work program. Relating the 5G, which is the topic of this panel, we had so far three calls under the first work program, but which these two strands, 5G for smart communities and 5G for the transport corridors. We will continue with the call for under the second world program, but we will now move to what is bringing under the same umbrella of large-scale pilot projects, 5G large-scale pilot projects. So this is the novelty of the second world program.
Oh, sounds really impressive, plan. I guess we all just wish there would be a little bit more funding there, because indeed when you say 1.5 billion and when we talk about the CEF digital part, indeed it sounds a little bit like a drop in the ocean. However, I know that we will also have the next MFF, so the multi-annual financial framework, very complicated name for a non-English speaker. But who knows, maybe there, considering that digital has been a priority more and more and popping up as basically crucial and critical technologies for Europe. So let's hope we get a bit more funding there. But right now, actually kind of completing the circle, going global and again going a bit more local, I would just like to get back to you, Teppo, again. So you described us, of course, the city of Tampere and also a relative, I guess, success story about a bit more rural areas there. But tell me, do you know also of situation in maybe some other similar places? Maybe you have some joint projects with other municipalities, or in general you could compare how the other guys, so to speak, are doing, and then maybe there also are some lessons learned for them from you and your area in Tampere.
Yeah, we've been working a lot with other cities around Europe and even globally, and exchanging views on digital divide. And there's a big difference if you compare the Nordics and the Baltics to the rest of Europe and the rest of the world. So we have, like in Finland, because we have not only Telia but also other operators, there's a good competition, which means that commercially we get those services available. There's no need for getting support from the state. But I know, for example, in the UK, talking to one of my colleagues in Sunderland, where they got a big funding from the government to put up the sort of a 5G network there, because there wasn't enough commercial sort of a power to do that. So I think that this is different, and the other parts of the world are in different positions, that there is no funding sufficiently from the market. We are the sort of a happy countries in the world because we have all this infrastructure in place and we can enjoy that. But I would raise one more point, which actually was also mentioned here. It's not all about technology that it actually is. It's about, there are people who don't want to be part of this technology game. They don't want to be using any technology at all. And then there's this situation where we as a city, we try to make sure that what we do, we also look at different type of user interfaces for the technology. How can we help the people who are not so skilled to use technology without having all that skill basis needed? So if you have for example, with the speech recognition type of user interface in the technology, that's totally different than you have to start using your phone or your computer to connect. So we try to enhance that, especially the elderly people, but also with the people who are disabilities. How can we make sure that they are part of this digital inclusion so that they will not be digitally divided? We know that there's a lot of issues with aging population, as all we have, huge aging population, a problem that we need to be looking at different measures than just the traditional connectivity technology, but other ways of using the technology to help them to be able to get those services, which we have as a city. We set us a goal that by 2025, which is by the next year, all of our services that can be digitally available are digitally available. So everything should be digital by the end of next year. And then goes the question, okay, how can we make sure that people actually know how to use those digital services? And that's the point that we are working on right now, even more than the technical connectivity problem.
So basically what you are saying, it's not good enough that my grandma has the fiber. I also have to go to my grandma's house and teach her all the possibilities that she can now exploit because she has fiber in her house finally.
But also you have to be sure that the service providers give the potential to, in Latvian language, to speak to the computer and it understands and knows how to operate, so that your grandmother doesn't need to have to type in everything.
Well, I'll definitely have made a note for myself, so I'll do my best to follow up on this once that time comes, because my grandma's village, unfortunately, is even very far from the middle mile backbone still as well. So let's see how that goes, but I'll keep you posted. But then continuing on, actually, and coming back to you, Oliver, so when we discussed in the previous round certain measures that can help incentivize the rollout, there is also one aspect that we kind of didn't touch upon much yet, but that has been touched upon in other panels already during today, and some people say it's a swear word, it's too sensitive, but I still like to do it, and it's spectrum. I mean, like it or not, it's something that, you cannot provide wireless connectivity without. And then there is also a question, of course, whether we have enough, whether it's under right conditions, whether the price is good enough, for operators to use it. And sometimes, of course, there might be even other external factors, you might have theoretical possibility to provide coverage so that people are connected, but there might be cross-border interferences or some other issues. So on this very famous, popular, but also sensitive topic on spectrum, you as the operator, where do you stand? What's your view?
Yeah, as you point out really well, I mean, for a wireless operator, spectrum is your cornerstone. Without that, you're nothing, right? I mean, whether you're a mobile operator, non-mobile operator, you need spectrum to offer services. Indeed, and it's not just a limited scale of spectrum, but it's super important to be in the low bands, in the mid bands, in the high bands, coverage capacity, right? So offering good coverage with the low bands, but also having, if it's more densely populated, then in the mid bands and high bands as well. And even in the rural areas nowadays, we see that we need to use mid bands because low band is just not good enough for use cases, right? So yeah, well, with frequency bands, it is always that they don't care about country borders. So we have to align here really well, and especially nowadays when we push more and more out from the spectrum. It was really well said here previously that that's our obligation to use this spectrum really well, because it's limited amount of spectrum that we can use, and the more we utilize this spectrum, the more critical it becomes that the operators in the country need to align. They need to be synchronized, especially in the TDD area, but also in the border areas, because frequency radio waves don't care about country borders. They don't. I mean, operators, of course, do their very best to stay inside country limits, but whatever you do, you still spread into border areas. And there the standardization, of course, is super important, that we align this not only within EU but globally as well, right? That we do in this frequency band similar things. That's how we can utilize this. And then, limiting just spectrum usage in the border area is not the case either, because then you don't have the services there, right? That's not the case. So then you need to start to cooperate with different country operators. It could be your sister company, like in Telia, for example, but it's in many cases not, right? In the Gulf of Finland, we meet with other operators, not only Telia, right, in the frequency band. So yeah, and I think this CEF funding you mentioned here, it's not just about now being with the investment and drop in the ocean, as you mentioned, but the good incentives there to make the smooth handover in the transport corridors working well is a very, very good initiative that you have raised, yeah.
This also reminded me, right now, of course, we have Roam like at home regime, at least in the EU, so you have to worry a little bit less. But again, and I know I mentioned my grandmother's village very much, but that's also an ideal story, because my grandma's village is actually on the Latvian side, but very close to Estonian border. And before we had Roam like at home, you had to be very careful in those border areas, because sometimes you might get connected even without, if you are not too tech savvy, you could connect it to the Estonian network, and then, you get a very nice surprise, quote unquote surprise, at the end of the month. So,
but your grandma is lucky to be on that border. Nowadays, Roam like a home is good. Being in the border with some countries where you don't have this, then you're still in the very same situation, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, we all know, of course, what's happening with the country on the east of Latvia, and certain interferences there, what you're gonna do during the time of war. You know, it's basically your hands are tied, and what do we do then? How do we cover that gap? And if wireless doesn't work, there is no fiber there yet. I mean, do we even have a solution in that case? I mean, we heard also today actually some other technologies being mentioned as well, low orbit satellites or whatnot have been mentioned, but they also all need the use of spectrum, which can be interfered with. So it's an interesting question, and at least I don't have an answer yet. What do we do with those border areas? But maybe you in Estonia have some kind of solution already, or you're still struggling as much as Latvians do?
I mean, we're in a similar position, right? So of course, right now, when one frequency band is interfered or the limitation in the border area is that strong, we just used another one. But it's limited scale, of course, that you can use. But interfering the whole spectrum, yeah, then your wireless is down and there's not too much you can handle, right? Then you need cable connectivity. But I mean, and it's everybody's talking also about the fiber and the last mile fiber, but nowadays nobody wants to be connected to a fiber any longer. I mean, or a cable, right? All your devices are anywhere wireless. So this, if there is a fiber at home, but still the last mile is some sort of or last end is some wireless network still, right? That can be interfered once again.
Yeah. Which indicates the move to what we call the fixed wireless connectivity that's gaining a bit of popularity as well. But anyway, I'm also simply looking at the clock that we are quite fast approaching the limit. I would just, again, to complete the circle, you know, so municipal, then like operator level, and now we go a bit more international. Again, just would like to get back to you, Elin. So you already sketched out a few things that you've been doing, also especially here in the European region, but maybe still there are some more examples of, let's call it real ITU work that you are doing to foster this inclusion and, let's say, bridging the digital divide. I'm sure many people would be interested, and who knows, maybe you can even find some more partners by doing a good advertisement for these initiatives.
Normans, I was listening to the colleagues so far, and again, the European continent, the European Union and the European countries always bring the success stories at the table when we discuss about the rollout of connectivity. Just maybe to say that it's around 1% of the gross national income is the cost to the access to the internet at the European level. But then if we go outside and maybe we take a look at other regions of the world, the numbers are completely different. We have over 90% of countries, 90% at the European level of fixed access to the internet. But then because I bring the global perspective and we are in all the regions of the world, the African continent is at just 30%. And I don't even want to enter the discussion of rural and urban area, because then the numbers will even go even higher. So that's why among the many practical things that the ITU is delivering with the different provision of the technical assistances at the regional level, with the different regional offices that we have, with the three sectors, standardization, radio and development, we are also partnering up with the European Commission. And I'm also very happy because this very important project is starting next year with ITU's 160 year anniversary since its foundation, 1865. And we will be supporting the Africa region, especially sub-Saharan Africa, delivering tailor-made technical assistance on, again, the subject on the broadband mapping system, but in this specific case, having the strong focus of doing the transfer of knowledge of the European Union and the European countries. What are the success stories that we can bring from the European table and deliver to the African continent? We want to increase the numbers in the African region and helping the national regulatory authorities or the ministry to know what's on the ground. whether you will then go for fixed access, whether you will go for mobile access. This is again up to you. Technology is evolving at a rapid pace. We do not want to be stuck with all the solutions, but we want to advance universal broadband access. And I go back to your question, your first question, when you mentioned about the UN Global Digital Compact. The UN Global Digital Compact, among other things, remarks the important role of ITU, that ITU has to support all the countries in the world to have the universal broadband access, to have equality in the sort of access to the internet, and to consider the different things, among others, you know, the Sustainable Development Goals and the gender equality aspects. So to say, Normunds, we are very looking forward to start this practical example, because it's a multi-annual program. It's not just one ad hoc intervention. We want to somehow be able to come back in a few years' time, after hopefully 4 years, and report on that, and saying that, you know, the same success stories that we can share now today with the European perspective, we will be able to do that, you know, in the Africa region first, but also outside. The European Union is at the forefront. The numbers of the European countries are amazing. We at ITU, we also have the mandate to help the others, and we're also doing that thanks to the European experience.
Well, all I can say is, indeed, while of course we are good, you can always do better, of course, but still, while we are good and continue improving, indeed, let's also not be shy and share our knowledge and our experience also where it's crucially needed as well outside Europe. So totally agree with the cause. Here, actually, maybe I would like to take a bit of a pause and maybe then just looking at the audience, but also maybe in your direction, if we have any questions from online viewers that have been posed to the panel. But please also maybe in the audience.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we do have a live microphone. That's an opportunity you do want to use while you are contemplating on the questions. We have a question here that reads, 5G, satellite internet or wired connectivity, does one prevail when it comes to territory development, or all of these technologies have to be used accordingly?
Interesting. So, I mean, is there any volunteer who would like to answer which technology do you prefer in which case?
Can you just, I mean, maybe you can't just divide that we need to prefer that and that and that. I mean, there was a really, really good discussion here with the non-terrestrial networks a couple of hours ago, right? And where you really don't have the coverage and you don't have people there as well. Super important to have that, even if it's not that high-end speeds and so on, right? When you have really densely populated areas and in the wireless you end up being really crowded, of course, needed, definitely needed. And for the mobility use cases, I mean, the use cases, everybody's looking for 5G use cases, but actually those mobile use cases that we already have, there's so many of those, right? We are so used to that when you use your mobile phone and you travel from one place to another, nothing drops and you can have your calls and data sessions. So they need to complement each other, right?
No, absolutely. And I mean, of course, certain things, I mean, again, in Latvia's case, for example, we are a flat country, you know, it's basically like just one big plain. So it's not maybe the most challenging environment geographically wise, but then again, you know, we have also plenty of regions like that are very mountainous, very otherwise from engineering point of view. I mean, one thing is to dig, you know, a hole and put your ducts and your cables, you know, in a flat country. Other is doing it in the Alps, I don't know, or other similar places. So, I mean, of course, in my opinion, in those cases, there is a relatively clear preference to more wireless technologies due to simply geographical constraints. But of course, otherwise, I mean, yeah, mostly, I would totally agree with you, they are a good complement to each other unless some specific obstacles are in place.
Yes, we do have a question here.
Sure, thank you. My name is Viesturs Beziņš. I'm the president of youth organization Yata Latvia. I just wanted to ask a question to mostly the colleagues from Finland and Estonia, because you touched upon the topics a couple of times. So you many times mentioned that, you know, it's not about the access that the grandma has in the village, but the way, you know, that to make sure that she knows how to use the technology. So my question is as simple as it is. So how do we assure that the grandma in the village knows how to use the technology? How do we support the elderly and the people who are less digitally advanced? How do we close the digital gap specifically with those people who have none or very low digital skills? Thank you.
So if I take on that from our experience and what we have been doing as a city, as a local authority, we've actually been putting money into that. So we've been hiring mostly sort of a third sector organizations to do that. So not like our own people, but health organizations to give that guidance, give that support to elderly people, which has been very well received because there are a lot of we have a lot of still people, especially in the youth, who are unemployed, who don't have employment, but they have good digital skills. So they're actually happy to do that kind of help, and they get some money from the organizations to do that. So we've been quite successfully promoting that type of activity.
Yep, similar story. We as an Telia has held trainings for the elderly to get them included. To have in the communities, they come along together. I mean, they enjoy in the meetings interacting with each other. Somebody younger coming to teach a bit, and then having a discussion what is difficult, what is not, giving word from each other, from one to another. So yeah, we've had those sessions a couple of years now.
It's not a question of the community coming together.
Exactly.
And I think, Dan, you also want to contribute to the skills.
Well, from our side at ITU, we have the global standards and the global recommendations that we have developed. We have our toolkit that we implement. We have a digital skills assessment that are done. Usually, from our perspective, we receive the request usually from the member state, the government, the specific ministry that request us to have an ad hoc assessment of the country's situation. So, reminding me of what the esteemed colleagues just mentioned. And then from that, we develop the recommendations. And usually, it's very straightforward, also having the implementation program afterward. And what we usually do and understand from those digital skills assessment that in the Europe region we've done for quite some time now is that you have common challenges. But then when you implement, you have to localize your program. It means that it has to become specifically tailor-made. Some countries may have a young population. Some other countries may have an older population. Some countries may have more men, more women. And this changes. Some countries can have the entire program implemented in English. The likelihood or the majority of the recipient of these programs can just benefit in English, and that's much easier. Other countries, you have to translate it and make it, again, localize it with the local language. So I think at the global level and then trickling down to the regional and the national level, there is already a lot out there. I think it's just a matter of continuing doing what we are doing. And in my opinion, and with my personal comment, of course, I think we are already way more digitally skilled now than we were like 10, 15 years ago, and it's just going to continue. So on that front, maybe compared to others, I think we are doing well. We can always improve in the Europe region and elsewhere. But like digital skills and literacy is something that we are tackling in a positive way so far. Let's see with AI, but that's another topic.
Excellent. Thanks a lot. And also being aware that we are like last few seconds in, so I would really, again, like to thank all the participants. And so if I would have to summarize, so basically what we need to do is then let's check if people want it. Me being the connectivity and technology geek, I really hope they do want it. And once they want it, let's make sure there's enough funding, there are enough use cases. And while probably businesses, scale-ups, unicorns, other innovators will know how to use it, but in case of my grandma, just make sure that she knows how to apply those use cases and train her well. So thanks a lot again for the discussion, and also thank you.
And I hope that we all have grandchildren like Normunds who helps with our connectivity problems. A round of applause to our amazing panel.